Hey guys, welcome back to Cheap Tea, and today we have a knife review. This is the Microtech Socom Elite. The blade on this thing is 3.98 inches long. It's a chunky boy at 0.19 inches thick. The overall length of the knife is 9.17 inches. It uses a M390 blade steel. The handle is 6061-T6 aluminum with 3M rubberized inlays. The weight is 5.4 ounces, making it relatively light for a knife of this type and this size. The blade on this version is a clip point with partial serrations and black anodizing, though you can get it in different finishes with a tanto blade if you desire it, and either full, partial, or no serrations. It locks with a liner lock and rides on bearings, though the original 1996 version was on washers. Now let's get into some of the pros and cons of this knife. First off, it has attained a damn near legendary reputation for hard use, and after using it for some work tasks, it is not hard to see why. I've been very gentle, thanks to the price and kind of status of this blade, choosing only to pry with this back area and never putting the tip, prying area. But it has been excellent for those off-warranty functions, so to speak, of drilling into stuff or prying with that back end there, and has definitely opened a lot of stuff that my fingers could not, or another knife might bend from. The next thing that's really great about this knife is the action. It is just great, especially for a production folder. It's not a drop shut, but it's definitely the littlest amount of force to close in my entire collection, which it's bigger than some, smaller than others, but this thing is pretty universally recognized as having a great action, if not the most insane Gucci buttery smooth action in the whole wide world. Now, Microtech, they have largely gotten their name off having such a fine fit and finish, and tactical knives really have recognizable designs and take pride in their use in movies and the like. But the fit and finish on this one, I've been lucky with my Microtechs. I know some people have had issues with screws falling out on Ultratechs, have had issues in a review I read with the lock bar here having kind of a variable angle where it would lock in. But I have had none of that, and it's been pretty much perfect right out of the box, not even needing some adjustments like my Ultratech did, and I consider that to be, just fine how it was. I'll explain a little bit more of that in its own video. So the fit and finish is lovely, but it is definitely a production knife. There are it definitely feels like something that was made production. The fit and finish are very fine, but if some knives are Lamborghinis and some knives are Honda Civics, then this knife is it's a BMW. And I think that the reputation for issues that Microtech has developed along with its reputation for excellence might lend itself to the BMW comparison. Another surprising pro from this thing are the ergonomics. If I really lock my finger into this groove, it can get a little squishy here with my fingers rubbing up against each other. But if I just let them rest naturally, it's a very comfortable knife. It's not melt into your hand ergonomic perfection, but it feels great. You don't notice the pocket clip at all when it's in the hand. It's easy to one-handed open, close. You can spidey flick it plenty easy. Everything, all the access is great and easy, and then the handle itself feels very good. Puts you at a great cutting angle. It's really nice. For the last of the pros, it's just that it's a USA-made knife. I really like USA-made knives. I feel like when it's collectible luxury goods like this, if I can buy USA-made stuff, then I enjoy that. It's part of it, and it also kind of narrows down some of my collecting stuff and makes it to where I really have to want something that's not American made, or like a very specific knife, or it has to be nice and a good budget option. And those can kind of get me to branch out away from the American market of TRM, Microtech, the American Spyderco's, ProTech, stuff like that. So let's get right into the cons to wrap things up. Maybe I'll switch that order around in the future so we can end on a positive note. I'll do a little summary. But for this thing, cons, I think the main cons that people are going to see, you cutting geometry freaks, you absolute lovers of super thin, super slicey blades. This is not that. At 0.19 inches, it is thick. It's half pry bar. It's designed to not snap on you. And nothing I'm saying is endorsed by Microtech, so don't go to the warranty people like, oh, but he said it was half pry bar. Yeah, well, that's what it's acting like for me, and everyone knows things are until they aren't. So on the day it snaps, I'll be a very sorry man, I guess. But that thickness I saw in another review that the person was saying it made the cutting feel like a chore. I wouldn't go that far. I would say it's still a super sharp blade, and it's just not slicey. It's just like handling something that it's a different category. It's a hard use knife. I would be comparing it to Striders and Emersons and Medfords as opposed to, say, TRMs and Koenigs, and I don't even know if the Koenig is a good slicer, but you get what I mean. Stuff with a really great slicing geometry, and Spyderco's. The other really big thing, before we get to that's a physical feature, I should say, is it is tip down carry only. And a lot of people have a problem with this, and I may have joined their ranks thanks to the fact that it puts all of this bolster area, all of this area of the handle up here, right in the top of your pocket. So you're trying to slide your hand past it, and it's this big thing right here, and it's a pain in the ass. I don't like that. That's the only genuine con. The only thing that, if you want this type of knife, if you want a Microtech and that kind of price point, it's the only thing that I could point to this knife and say, that's my problem with it. Not even tip down itself, but the fact that this is such a fat kind of hammerhead up here on this bolster. Is it still bolster if there's no distinct scale? Anyway, there's such a fat kind of hammerhead up here that it really does annoy your hand trying to get past it. Other cons, materials for price. At the price it is, about, I want to say about $325. And just given how long this model has been produced, I really would like to see a titanium handled version for not much more expensive, or a version with DLC coating instead of anodizing. That would probably be my greatest desire, would be a DLC instead of anodized on the blade, because there's already, let's see if you can get some of those. You can already see the scratches, and that's probably from two weeks of daily carry now. And I mean, I'm using it to pry up there, so it's expected. I'm putting my own apocalyptic finish on this thing. And honestly, I expected it to be a safe queen. I was just like, I want a manual Microtech to be part of my slowly expanding Microtech collection. What's the manual Microtech? And though the Stitch is coming out and I want to get that, this thing was the manual Microtech. And once I saw it, something really just spoke to me about it, that any other knife I looked at just didn't feel like this one did, that really attracted me to it. But that said, the price, I would like to see some modern finishing, like DLC, something like that. I've heard it's much more expensive to do, but it's an old model knife, so I really would kind of like to see some new materials and finishes and stuff that aren't on different variations of this knife, like the Alpha or the Bravo. So the main quirk of this thing, before we get to the overview, is something that I also noticed in Chris Reeve knives, I should say, and the Sebenza specifically, is that I would always ask myself, why do people like Sebenzas? Why are people willing to pay so much for such a basic knife? What's up? And then I realized, and I was describing it to somebody, going, why would somebody just buy it's just a knifey knife. You would go to the dictionary and look up knife, look up folding pocket knife, look up nice pocket knife, and there it is, a Chris Reeve Sebenza. And before I could finish saying the words, it clicked. I got it. That people want their one and done knife, or they want to collect, when they see that knife, they go, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's good. And this has a very similar effect on me. You look at this design, you've probably seen this imitated in a cheaper and lower quality version a million times. You might have seen a similar design in movies, the kind of dual tone or dual material black blade, and then the half serrated black finished blade up here, folder. You've seen it carried by a Marine in some movie or a video game or something. And so it has a very recognizable design that is aggressive, but it's not wild. It doesn't blow anybody's mind. And then again, the action, it might blow some people's minds. If they've only been doing like cheap stuff and they get this thing, it might blow their mind. But compared to like a really high-end React or one of the mini Evos or something like that, it just doesn't, it's not the same there. It's still a production knife, and it's not like a super limited production knife. It doesn't have that guillotine, finger guillotine drop closed action. But what it does have is an excellent action that really just flings forward with some force, really lays it down, and it's great. The ergonomics, yeah, it's possible to get a little squanched up or get a little sweaty, something like that. It's not 100% hand-filling fat carbon, but it's good. It's really good. It feels really good. The cutting position is great. And again, with the blade, same thing. It's plenty sharp. It cuts just fine, about what I expect from any kind of tactical knife, if not better. But it's not some uber slicey crazy thing. So at the end of the day, you're left with something that's a very knifey knife. It's just, it does its job to the highest extent that it can, and it really looks like an archetype of a certain type of knife. And I think, that's a really kind of cool thing when you find the archetype or the knife that just doesn't speak to you because it excels at one specific thing, but speaks to you because of its, above competence, its skill at plenty of things. And so I really, in conclusion, in overview, the Microtech Socom Elite is an excellent latest version of one of Microtech's most classic manual folders, and this thing is a classic for a reason. I've been putting it through its paces, and I would just around recommend it to anybody that is looking to spend Microtech prices. And that's a subset of a fairly large collecting audience, just the knife world in general, but there's a lot of people who are looking in that kind of range. And so if you're the person looking in that range, then go ahead, give this thing a look. I do not think you'll be disappointed. Later, y'all.